This is Making It Here and There. Welcome to the show.
Wendy Pease is on a mission to help your business go global. No passport required. She is the author of The Language of Global Marketing, her brand new book on why and how businesses should be investing and implementing international growth strategies. As the owner and president of Rapport International, she has facilitated the transformation of businesses through translation, interpretation, and multilingual communication. She also hosts a podcast entitled The Global Marketing Show, which features guests discussing their opportunities and challenges in the field. You can purchase The Language of Global Marketing on Amazon.com, and you can learn more about Wendy and listen to her podcast by visiting wendypease.com.
All right. Thank you, Wendy, for joining me on Making It Here and There. I am super excited to have you on and talk about the new book you got coming out.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's been such a fun week with launching a book. It's my first one, so I've had a huge learning curve.
And you just have, like you said, you've been super crazy busy this week with all the events you have surrounding it, and now you're doing this podcast with me, and just, you said you're riding the high.
Yes, I am. Yeah, we did a clubhouse on Monday night. Eric Somdell hosted it, and we thought it would go maybe an hour. It ended up going 3 hours. There were fabulous questions and discussions. And on Tuesday, I was on a LinkedIn Live that lasted an hour, and then we had a Zoom meeting to have a party for it, and then I've got a bunch of interviews all scheduled. So it's exciting. I mean, it's really exciting. I was on another podcast earlier this morning, so I love it. It's great to talk to people.
It's funny because it's like you're on a book tour, but it's like the virtual book tour. But it's great because then you can just, and then when everything reopens, you can go on another book tour and second wave.
Right. Then do the libraries and the bookstores. Yeah. And I heard a bookstore on Newbury Street, which is the big shopping district in Boston, is carrying my book now. So that just came up. And I heard this fall that they want to do some book signings or author talks. So I was thrilled and shocked and excited.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
So actually, since we're talking about the book, let's just jump into the book. Tell us about The Language of Global Marketing.
Sure. So it's called The Language of Global Marketing, and it's all about translating your domestic strategies into international sales and profits. And the reason I wrote it is because less than 1% of U.S. companies export. And of those, 98% of them are small and mid-sized businesses. And so often when companies call us, they just don't know where to start. So the book starts out with just talking about what the opportunity is, what just the size of the United States compared to the globe. And then it looks at some financial metrics like GDP and what is the purchasing power parity. And it helps you to think through which markets might be good ones. And then it goes through a process of how you would go about doing global marketing, complete with once you've sold and you have to have a conversation with them, how do you handle that? So, 17 years in the business, I've got a ton of real life stories. I've got a ton of Google translation mistakes that, I get into. I talk about when it's appropriate to use technology, when it's not. So the feedback that I've gotten is that it's easy to read and it's loaded with really good information on how to move forward with global marketing.
Now, this would be a good book for a company to purchase when they're starting out and then would hire a consultant or a company to do that localization work for them?
Excellent question. One of the biggest mistakes that I'm seeing right now is technology companies developing like software as a service or apps, and they're not thinking about going global early on. And then when they get to that key decision point and they say, yeah, we're going to expand, they haven't built the technology to be able to handle other languages. And it causes a real problem for them. It either limits their expansion or they've got to invest a lot more in reprogramming it. So I say from the start, when you're starting a business, look global. That's one reason. The second is with the internet now, people are buying from all over the world. So we've seen companies, they've come up with a term for it now. It's called accidental exporters, that they put their website up and then people from all over the world are finding it and they're ordering it so they can track this business coming in. And they found that if you do a little bit of translation, it can increase the number of orders that you're getting. So think about translation and globalization earlier on. And plus, there's free resources in the United States to help exporters. You know, any of your listeners are welcome to reach out to me and get a list, you know, get a direct contact at your state that will provide grants for you to update your website and translate it so you can bring in international business. It's a really well-kept secret.
You know, when you think about it, though, even if you aren't doing, say, quote unquote, international work, just localizing even into other languages just nationally, I think is just really important for, I'm just thinking of the company that I work for. I work for a utility. They have to, you know, we do a lot of work in other languages because our customer base is very diverse.
We work with a lot of utilities because they have to communicate with other people. And so utilities, anything government oriented like education, anything in healthcare, they all have to provide in-language communications to people who don't speak English in the United States, but let alone the law. If you go to Spanish-speaking TV in the US and you flip through, you'll see fast food companies, car companies, insurance carriers, consumer products, they're all advertising in Spanish because they know there's a huge market here. And the US has the second largest Spanish-speaking market in the world. Mexico is number one, then the US, and then you have Peru and Argentina and Spain and all the other Spanish-speaking countries. So right here in your backyard, without leaving borders, you've got an opportunity. And the book helps with that. It talks about that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what was like the light bulb moment for you to say, I need to write a book? I need to write a book about this. I need to get this out there. I need to compile it into an anthology for companies and businesses that are interested in globalizing.
I think where it came about was when we were doing our marketing editorial calendar, and somebody gave me some really good advice, a marketer, and she said that you know, you write a blog and you take 3 of those blogs and you put them together for a white paper. You take 3 of those white papers and you put them together for an ebook. And then you can take your ebooks and turn them into chapters. You know, white papers or ebooks could turn into chapters. And I was like, wow, well, that gives us an exact way to think about what content create. Because if we start with the book and work backwards into what information should be covered in the book, then we could you know, break it down into what all the blogs were going to be. So listening to all the questions that people come in is the kind of information that we want to offer so people realize that they can do it.
And so when did you start the blog?
We've been blogging for years. We have a whole resource center filled with information and videos and case studies and white papers and ebooks and all sorts of stuff on the website. And so when you go there, you can search for whatever topic you want and read about it, but it's not like a book that's all organized for you. So you've got either one. If you go, I've got a question on quality, I can go to the resource center and look it up. So what the book does is take a bunch of that information. Of course, it had to be rewritten and organized and put in book format, but now it leads you through how you should think about strategy, technology, process. You know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's nice. So like you said, even though you had to rewrite some of the content, you had that basis for a very long time. It was just a matter of compiling it and creating that process for companies that, like you said, weren't thinking about doing that. You said you really got to start from the beginning, and it'd be nice to have
Yeah.
that book as your guide, your leading you down the path.
Right, because I really want to get the message out to people who, are in marketing or they're business leaders that think global. I mean, right now with the shutdown, you can see how connected we are to people all over the world. And that's the same with your internet that can sell. So, we have a couple free chapters on the website. So if people want to download that they can just go to the website and hit the search bar and go samples, and it'll bring that up to see if it's something that they're interested in.
Now, what's one thing, and I'm sure there's many things, but what's one thing in the book that would really surprise your readers?
All the mistakes that Google Translate makes.
Yeah, Google Translate.
Or bad translation. I mean, we talk about, well, it's actually a chapter on who can do your translation, but throughout the book, there's all sorts of examples of what can go wrong. And I think that's the biggest fear people have is how do I judge the quality when I can't speak the language? And so, I have fun with it. I have a lot of stories in there. And just if you think about English, I mean, I heard of a good one this morning that on a website, when we talk in the US, we call it a checkout. If you want to go to your cart or you want to go check out, they call it, your issues. And another good one I heard the other day, what was it? It's quite chuffed. I'm quite chuffed with the outcome. And that means you're quite pleased with the outcome of something. So,
I would not have gotten that from the context, but
no.
It's chuffed. I guess you would think like chafed. I don't know. Chuffed.
Right. But apparently it's frequently used in the UK. And another one that was funny, I think this was in the book. I can't remember. I got a ton of them. So it's whichever one's popping to mind. But somebody was telling me on my podcast, The Global Marketing Show, that when they knew a man that went over to the UK and all the women there were wearing skirts at business. And he says, do you ever wear pants for work? And there was this quiet that went over the room, and somebody pulled him aside and said, when you talk about pants in England, you're talking about underwear. We call pants trousers. So he turned a bit red, got a little embarrassed, and now knows to use the word trousers instead of pants.
I'm going to start using the word trousers just so I don't refer to somebody's underwear. But
yeah. Well, not in the U.S. We call them pants, so it's perfectly acceptable. So, and in that, we talk about culturally adapting your translation and how to make it appropriate so you don't make goofs like that.
And this is something I'm sure you've dealt with just in general, like just being in this field. When you're explaining to people what you do as for your company, Rapport International, are people surprised? Because I feel like, I know I'm trying to phrase this question in a different way, but I feel like people, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people they tend to still live under a rock.
And think English is the global language.
Yes. Yeah, English, or just this idea that, it's like, the US is the center of the world and everyone else just rotates around it like a solar system. And it's like, that's not how it is. I don't know. Do you run into that issue, or?
Oh yeah.
When you talk to any regular people, just when you talk to anybody like on the street about what you do and what your company and why it's important.
Yes, when I first bought the company 17 years ago, people would say, well, who needs translation? Is that even a thing? They'd never heard of translation or a company that did it. About 10 years ago, Google Translate came out and people were like, oh, isn't Google going to put you out of business? And we had, a little bit of a worry in the industry. But then about 5 years ago, people have been saying, well, I don't need Google Translate. I need something that's right for the culture. And what they're saying is I need culturally adapted, or high quality. So it's been so interesting to me over the years to see how perspectives change. And plus you've got a couple of dynamics that are coming in. One is that the internet is becoming so much more prevalent around the world that people want information on the internet and they want it in their native language. I have a bunch of statistics about that we can get into. But then you also have millennials who have traveled much more than any other generation. So they're more open to diversity and accepting. So with those things coming together, companies that go global will be more successful. And the research already shows that is global companies have higher revenues, higher profits, pay higher salaries, protect their domestic markets better, and they're stronger businesses, and their valuation upon sale is higher. So just for those reasons alone, it makes sense to export or do global business.
What would you say the biggest challenge that companies face with globalization and translation? Just like a roadblock that you just constantly see them run into, other than just not doing it or waiting too late to do it?
No, not doing it, using Google Translate and thinking that anybody can do their translations, because we've had so many times where translations have come to us that have been done by a bilingual employee or a distributor, and they weren't fully bilingual and they weren't trained. Our translators have PhDs, they're fully bilingual, they've got subject matter expertise, they understand the marketing nuances or the technical nuances. We do patent. So if it's something important and can affect the bottom line, sales or liability, you've got to have a professional.
Yeah, and that's something like you said you don't want to cheap out on. You don't want to just cut corners in that aspect, because like you said, you're going to constantly, it's going to, like you said, it's going to ruin your bottom line, and it's going to show. Definitely. Right. And obviously it's going to show it's language.
Right. It is language, but there are different ways to handle that. And that's what I talk about in the book. Is there's a chapter on what do you need to translate. And then in the quality section, you've got to think about what you're translating and what quality do you need. So I've got some 4x4 matrices in there to show you where you can save money, where you can leverage technology, and where you need to have high quality. So it's not like you just say, ooh, I've got to invest in it. You can, if you're thoughtful about it, there's lots of different ways to do it. And then don't look at translation as an expense. Look at it as an investment, because you are going to get a return back on it that you can track. And that's, people who do, SEO and website sales and e-commerce, they have to warn the English market is be careful when you start translating, because it's going to look like your visitors go down because your in-language sites are all of a sudden going to start going up. So you can create a little competition across the languages and how you're driving people there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Isn't it funny?
What has been the most, I say challenging, and it could be challenging in a good way, as in your professional career as being the head of Rapport International and doing what you've been doing for the last, would you say 30 something years, 34 years?
Well, the business has been around for 34 years, but I bought it 17 years ago, and then we made another acquisition 6 years ago. So the challenge is just lack of time. I mean, I love what I do. And so I always have I like every entrepreneur, I've got a ton of ideas. Right now, I've got a fabulous staff. So they're making sure that we have 100% satisfaction guarantee, and we have 100% on-time delivery rate. So the only time we don't meet deadlines is if the client changes the project. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is just having enough time to do all the things that I want to do and implement all the ideas. What I love doing, I can tell you what I really love doing, is having people call up and say, we want to translate our website or our marketing materials, or we want to enter this country, you know, how do we do it? And then I can say, what's your corporate strategy? What's your marketing strategy? What do you want to accomplish with your multilingual marketing strategy? So that is so much fun because everybody has slightly different needs.
I'm sure. And is it nice sometimes when you kind of like open somebody's eyes about it, like if they're like a little skeptical, and then like you said, like the light bulb goes off, and it's like all of a sudden, then you know you really are leading them down the path of having a successful business because they're able to do this work in, you know, internationally, globally, like you said, even nationally, because
Yeah.
of doing those things.
Yeah, we had, you know, one of the first accidental exporters I met, this was years ago, even before there was a term for it. He says, yeah, I'm getting inquiries from Germany coming in. So he had us translate his German, and then he expanded into 12 or 13 other countries.
Oh
And
wow.
we just did a presentation for the New Hampshire International Trade Resource Center about how to handle virtual international trade shows. And so it was really fun to speak with him because I remember meeting him at the start and helping him figure out how to move forward with global marketing and sales.
You see them like start out, they're like a child, and now they blossom into this, just a different, almost like a different, like a grown up, you know. It's nice. um
Expert.
Expert.
Yeah.
uh how do you connect with different companies? Do they find you? Do they, how does that work?
Well, we do a lot on social media. So if you're on LinkedIn, follow us there, or Facebook, or Twitter, or Instagram. We're on all of them. You can go to my link tree, just Wendy Pease. And we're posting mistakes and cultural facts and, you know, language goofs and different holidays and how they're celebrated around the world. So if you are a global citizen or interested in any of that, you know, we have fun posting this stuff and get good feedback about it. So I think from that, people see that. And plus, we get a ton of business from referrals. You know, oh, so-and-so said I should reach out and contact you.
That's great. I'm sure after how many years, you'd say, like you said,
Yeah.
you're so busy, which is good. Would you say the pandemic has affected you in any way? Would you say you're more busy now because of the pandemic, or is it about the same? How has that impacted you?
Q2 of last year, we just dropped off. I mean, because that was just everything shut down and
Right.
everybody was kind of pulling in. So that shut down. Our Q3 and Q4 were very good. So we ended up at about the same revenue as we did the year before. This year has started out very strong. And I think that's, you know, we provide interpreters for Zoom meetings. So we've seen that business come up. We've got multilingual live chat and chat bots. And then we've seen a lot of website translation or people realizing it. And so, you know, that's why I'm trying to get the word out. Is there grants to help you do it? So reach out to me and I can give you information on how to apply no matter what state you're in.
That's
I
awesome.
mentioned that before, but I'm going to keep mentioning it because there's free money out there for you to go global.
Um, so how did this all start for you? Let's bring us back, back. How did you get interested in doing this type of work?
Oh, so we're going way far back. Well, I
All the way
lived in
back.
Mexico, Taiwan, and the Philippines when I was young. When I was in high school, I talked to my dad about, oh, wouldn't it be neat to be an interpreter? And he said, go get bilingual and specialize in something, which was really good advice.
Mhm.
But I ended up pursuing sales and business. I got my MBA and kind of forgot about that whole comment. And I was laid off on maternity leave, and I thought, I don't want to go back to corporate. I want to be a business owner. And so and I didn't have a good idea for one. So somebody mentioned buying a company. So I daydreamed online, as they like to say, and found this translation company for sale. And translation is written, interpretation is spoken, but it did some of both. And I met with the owner. I thought, oh, isn't this cool? I mean, I majored in foreign service. I speak some Spanish, French, and Italian. I lived internationally. And it was a business model. It was business to business services, which had been all my experience. So I landed here, and then I've kind of chuckled that, excuse me, this has been my training. I mean, growing a business and specializing in foreign service and loving international, it's all come together.
That's amazing. Like you said, sometimes it's interesting. Like you're interested in doing something, then you kind of step away from it, and then, like you said, there was this opportunity that presented itself to you, and that's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't
Yeah. Yeah, there's a Facebook group for people that went to the same high school that I did, and I said, I'm curious who is working in something they majored in, because probably 5 years out of school, a lot of people might not be, but the majority of people that responded to that were definitely in what they major, some kind of overlap. So I was really, really surprised.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, and it took me years to get here, but I finally did.
That's amazing. So what's the, we were saying, you got the book coming, you're doing a lot of the press for that. What's next for Wendy Pease and Rapport International?
Well, I want to keep helping companies go international. Anything from their patent research all the way up through taking it to market, we can help in that way. So I get a real thrill out of help figuring out how companies can do that. I've got another book in the works already with the co-author, and I'm in talks with somebody else to co-author one. And then I've got another series coming off the language of global marketing. And so, so those are the longer term writing goals. As for the business, we just hired somebody that's going to help do some PR, and, so I'm here for another, at least 10 years, because I enjoy doing it.
Look at you writing all these books. That's it. Now you're one of those authors. You're going to have all those books, but I think that's amazing. I think that's great. And like, books are still so relevant. Like, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, everyone's has short-term memory. Everyone likes reels because they're 30 seconds long. But at the end of the day, though, like you said, it's an investment, and this isn't going to go away. Like this whole globalization, like, well, yeah, it's not going to go away. So it's just going to continue to get bigger. It's like a snowball. It's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to get faster and faster. And as technology improves, and because it's always getting better and faster, so is this market. So
and I don't see the technology has opened so many more doors, but I don't see it taking over high quality translation. There's just too many words that don't transfer in meetings, and idioms, and even from what you say in New Jersey to how we say things in New England is different. So, there'll always be a place for high quality translation.
So I have a translation for you. See if you can do it. A New Jersey translation.
Yeah.
Can you tell everybody what skeeve means?
That's a North Jersey thing.
Yeah. It is.
Say it again.
Skeeve.
Not like skeeve me out.
Yeah, skeeve me out.
Skeeve me out. Yeah. It means like gross me out.
Yeah. Because no, I always thought this was like a normal, like everyone says this thing. And then when I was in grad school, I went out to dinner with a girl from Georgia, from the state of Georgia. I don't know. I forget. I don't even remember what we were talking about, the context of the conversation, but I said something like, yeah, it skeeves me or whatever. She's like, oh, you're really from New Jersey. I'm like, what? She's like, skeeve? She's like, what? She's like, I think I may have heard that on the Housewives. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, no, I can't. I'm like, you know what that? She's like, nobody says that. I'm like, She's like, "You're really from New Jersey?" I was like, "Oh, okay. So I guess I am. I guess I can't take
That
that."
is so funny. I mean, that's part of, I haven't used that word in ages and I haven't heard it, but I have to admit, my mom and all that side of the family is from South Jersey. My best friend is from North Jersey. So I've spent a lot of time in Jersey, and then I grew
So,
up in central Pennsylvania. So
so you
I
spend
may have
time
heard
around the
it there.
word.
I've spent time around the word, but you're right. I don't hear anybody say that up here.
I probably use it like every day because there's always something to be out. But
I love it. That's a good one.
I'm sorry, I had to bring it up. I had
You
to.
ever use wicked?
Not really.
Yeah, that's huge up here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's wicked
I
hot out. It's wicked, humid out. It's wicked.
guess, yeah, I guess like that is a northeastern
New England,
New
yeah.
England. Yeah, I get wicked. Oh, I'm trying to think of another one for Jersey, but yeah,
Chocolate and water.
yeah, I guess
Oh,
water,
yeah,
chocolate.
we say water,
Mm.
chocolate. You say water, chocolate. But that's accent. That's not words. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what else. I guess there's other ones too, but like I never realized skew. I always just thought I just thought everybody said that. I don't. But this is how you open your mind.
Yeah.
So I before we wrap up, just let everybody know how to get a hold of the language of global marketing.
Oh, so you can go to Amazon and just search for the language of global marketing. And if you just search, it's, my name is Wendy Mackenzie Pease, but if you just search Wendy Pease, it became a bestseller this week. So yeah, and industrial marketing and global marketing and new release. So, I'm absolutely thrilled about that. So you can find it there, or, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and just go to Wendy Pease, Wendy, and then P is in Peter, E-A, S is in Sam, E. You can find me, Wendy Pease, everywhere.
And I was going to say, on Amazon, you had 5 stars. I think the whole thing is 5 stars, so that's nice. Even though Amazon reviews are always iffy, but like, it's nice. I was looking at it last night. I was like, and we're going to put a link in the description of the podcast as well, so everybody can.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I've got a speaker and author website too. That's wendypease.com. So any notes that you can put in there, I'd really appreciate. Anybody that's listening that reads the book, certainly put a review up there or reach out to me individually. I'd love to hear feedback because, it is part of what I do and I want to get better. So I'm open to taking constructive criticism, and I'm open to hearing if anything in there helped you, because it'll help with my next book.
Well, thank you again for coming on Making It Here and There, Wendy. I can't wait to talk about your next book. You're gonna have to come back.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. If you are interested in being interviewed for Making It Here and There, please send an email to MIHATpodcast@gmail.com. Making It Here and There is an interview series focusing on ways in which individuals are using communication across borders and across cultures to achieve understanding, learning, and overall consciousness of the world around us.